What is on my heart? What's on my heart is the reformation of identity and the wild journey that it is. And I want to share about 2 experiences that I had this week that will illuminate that this journey that I'm in right now. And I just also want to say I really get why people avoid the thing that they know is going to lead to the life that they really want. Because it requires a reshaping of oneself. And this is why I feel so glad that I went down a path of actually locating my true desires in this lifetime. And I think that I started there, but where I wound up was not just like my desires, but like, what does God desire for me? What does like the creator want for his daughter? And that once I started to get that relationship online, that's when things really began to shift. And so it's not like, I feel like the most radical changes in our lives, they're not overnight, you know? I mean, there can be some incidents that happen and our lives are changed, but it's the identity that is formed from the choices, from the circumstances that we leave or that we enter into, that shift in identity is like what I think people fear the most, and what is it's the deepest work. It's the deepest work. Like, who are you? Who are you here to be? What are you here to do? And why? And so I look at my past and I just see how I was living from all of these things that I identified with around, you know, being sexually desirable, and around, you know, centering the sort of like exploration, right? And all the different substances that I tried, like that was a choice in how to live, you know? It was a choice. And I really am navigating this interesting place where I don't want to condemn my past, my choices, because they were my choices. And I really believe in sovereignty and people being aware, and me being aware of my own sovereignty to choose my life, to choose the direction of my life, to be an active participant, to have agency. and gosh, I just was thinking earlier about how I used to feel so, this like sense of entitlement around men, and like wanting, of course, I always felt this sense of love and care, and receiving love and care, and really being very joyful in that. But there's also this sense of entitlement that I had with men, like I deserved some kind of treatment, right? Or deserved to be tended to in some kind of way, like financially or, you know, materially. And it's really interesting, because I'm the only one who can know if that is my, like, yes, like this experience of entitlement, like I'm owed something, versus an experience of receiving something with joyfulness and with gratitude. Those are completely different postures, completely different inner postures, a place to sort of come from when I'm interacting with. When I say posture, that's what I mean. It's a place to come from within, from where one, like how I am positioned and posturing myself inside of a connection, inside of a conversation. So this internal posture of entitlement is so different from the internal posture of gracious receivership. And gracious receivership that has also, has, I think the word, the idea of standards is really coming up for me here, right? Like if I have standards for the relationships that I have in my life that are the most intimate to me, it's like if I don't compromise on those standards, it's not about being rigid and like hard-lined, because I personally don't want to be that way, right? But just having them, like having a spine about what my standards are in intimacy and in relationship. And so if I compromise on them, I see how that can shift my internal posture into this place of like, oh, well, I'm entitled to more, or I'm entitled to XYZ, whatever it is. More of your time, more of your attention, more of your money. Versus I have held my standards, and I am also so rooted in myself as a woman, and I'm so solid and have such a tall spine and open heart that I'm able to be in my gracious receivership with a man. Entitlement is such it's so sneaky, and it's so, my experience of it is just so, it's just ugly. It's so ugly. It's so, when I've seen that in myself, it's like something I don't want to look at, but I've had to look at it. Like I've had to actually look at it to be able to face it, to be able to be honest with myself about how do I want to show up in my relationships. And I think part of the reason that I'm bringing this up is because in this chapter / era, like stepping into this whole new identity of who I am in the world, so much of it, if you've been watching my video diaries and following along, I've shared about this beloved identity, being beloved by God, and that being such a radical identity shift. Because if I'm experiencing myself as beloved by the Almighty, by the Creator, by a God who loves me, and I let myself be filled by that every single day, I don't position myself in places with men, in relationships with men, where I feel entitled to something. I actually feel so full on the appreciation that I have for life itself and for being loved by God in all the ways that I am loved by God, that I can then show up in relationships with men, like in any of my relationships, from a place of gracious receivership. And I'm not perfect at this, right? Like I still tussle, but I'm so much more able to, and I've had people comment that I've been very good at receiving, but for me to know where my internal posture is and to feel the joy that comes from gracious receivership. It's like no one else can navigate that inner terrain for me. And so when I was talking a little bit ago about, locating what our true desires are, locating what my true desires are, and then are these the desires like that God would have for me? That alignment is like so perfect. So perfect. And so I think about, for example, how a true desire that I could not locate for a really long time, that I buried under all this story, and all this fear, was around being a wife and having a husband, having a man that I enter into marriage with, that I have a family with. I was so, I got so divorced from that desire. And so I created this whole world, this whole life, where that would have never been accessible to me in the world of non-monogamy and permissive sexuality and escorting and the like casual drug use. So yeah, I had this identity in that world, but I was so not like fundamentally fulfilled. There was definite experiences of fulfillment and finding fulfillment in the best ways that I could in those realms. Even when I think about clients that I saw, it was as if I was playing wife and I could serve a role for them. And there was such a satisfaction in that. But that satisfaction was so limited. It was like limited to the bounds of this identity that wasn't rooted in the deeper desire of my heart and soul. And the desire that I would say God has for me in my life, that now I see that I was so in avoidance of it. I just see people tussling with this and not being able to give words to it, and it's such a process becoming and getting actually in touch with, like, what do I actually desire? And sometimes we locate desires and we're like, okay, explore that for a little while, but then there's a thing beneath it. There's something deeper. Baby. The deeper desires, right? Like, what is at the bottom? It's like the most basic level desire, and really peeling away all the places of telling oneself the way that I told myself. Like, I started to just believe that it was not possible for me, that it was not accessible for me, and I would do good with what I had. There were some moments in that old way of living where I was so resigned. I was so resigned. Like, I really thought, okay, if this is the best I can do, like, it'll be good enough. Oh. If this is the best I can do, it'll be good enough. My friends, that is not the way I'm here to live my life. And I hope that's not the way that you're here to live your life either. good enough. What I had to realize was that I was choosing it. I feel so passionate. I'm so passionate about people understanding choice. Choice as a concept is one of the most important, most foundational concepts in my life and in my work and in who I'm here to be in the world. Like, we have a choice. As I get in reality about what I'm choosing every single day, like conscious awareness of my choices, I get to have agency over, am I going to continue to make these choices? Or am I going to make other choices? And like, I didn't want to be run by patterning and by conditioning and by some belief that had me living in a life that was not actually in alignment with the deeper desires of my heart and soul. I think that we all go on this journey in some way. I mean, else become somebody who on their deathbed looks back and, is filled with regret for how they didn't live more truthfully. I'm just so here for us to live truthfully. In a way that honors us, that honors life, that honors God, that honors creation. Like, that's so... Why? Because it's beautiful. Because we're here, because we're alive, because we have the opportunity is available to us. And I've said this before and I'll keep saying it, but like, what becomes possible in a world where people are actually living like what is true for them, for us? So much. We have barely scratched the surface of what is possible for human beings. Period. And we've come a long way, baby. So the two events that I wanted to share about. One, this week, was my first time going to a small church group, the church that I've been going to here in New York for 10 months now. And I finally made it to a small church group. I felt scared for a long time. I felt nervous. I felt, just like not ready. And I finally went. I'm so glad. I totally could have gone sooner and felt like the beautiful support that I felt and received there, but all in perfect timing, And it was just delightful, so delightful. It was a women's group, so a small group of women who meet that go to the church that I go to. And I'm just, I feel so excited that like wherever I travel now, I get to plug in to church community, like I get to find a church, and there's so many denominations, right? And there's so many different church leaders and ministers and people who are like really beautifully like holding the body of Christ, like holding the field for that body, the church body. It's so cool to realize that I have that now as I go about the world. And yeah, so it felt, it was a brave thing for me to go to this group And I was just, of course, welcomed with such open arms, and I shared about my story, shared about my testimony, and was so beautifully received. And my goodness, I man, I carried such uh, assumptions about Christians for so long, even though, of course, like, always felt and saw so much good in so many Christians that I've like met throughout my life. And then I think because of certain things that I saw happen in culture around the church, uh, and fears, and sort of seeing like the worst in Christianity, I had these underlying assumptions and fears, and sort of like, I think, upset, and just kind of pushed it away for so long. But when I really think about it, so many of the Christians that I've met, almost all of them, like the vast majority in my life, have just been such kind people, such welcoming people, gracious people. And there's so many out there who are like that. And yeah, that was just so wonderful. And interestingly and beautifully, the next day, I went to an ecstatic dance. Seems as though that was the last ecstatic dance that I would attend as a, and like officially living in New York, because I'll be in and out of the city. But yeah, who knows what is next and where, other than staying with family and friends. But ecstatic dance has been one of those communities that I entered into and really rooted into, especially in New York. And now, as I travel, there are ecstatic dances that happen all over the world. And it is a community that I can plug into wherever I go. And I think that part of why I'm bringing this up is just the importance of having community in the process of one's the transforming and reforming of one's identity. So important to have community that is trusted, that we trust, that we feel like we can just show up and be ourselves, And what I'll say about the ecstatic dance community is that I had been to a few ecstatic dances in Austin, and then when I moved to New York, it was like a whole other level. I shared about this in one of my podcasts, so I'll link to that. But I remember feeling so intimidated by how free people felt in their bodies. New York ecstatic dance goes hard. I suspect because there's just so much sitting, standing, walking in New York that on the dance floor we gotta like bring it all. And I felt intimidated at first when I went for the first time 7.5 years ago, something like that. That's wild. Oh man, that's wild to think about. It was that long ago. And it was 1.5 years later that COVID happened, and then I was nomadic basically for 1.5 years, and then bounced in and out of New York. But I remember when I came back in 2022, summer 2022, I said, I need to ground myself in community. I need to ground myself somewhere, and I chose ecstatic dance. I felt so like nomading for basically 1.5 years. It was quite a period of time, and a lot it was beautiful in so many ways, and it was difficult in so many ways. And I just felt so like I just needed to root. I needed to just root. And I returned to New York. And it was life-saving for me to have dance community to tap into and to show up. And one of the things I love about ecstatic dance and dance community, period, is like being able to root in a place where the idea is that we are in our bodies. The focus is that we are in our bodies. I forget how many people don't have this. You might even be one of them, right? There's a lot of people who don't have dance community. And oh my goodness, like it's something that I feel like everyone should have in some way, whether that's ecstatic dance or partner dance or, just taking dance classes or even just going out dancing, right? Like nightclubs, electronic music shows, whatever kind of live music that you might enjoy, but to go dance, to go out and dance. It's hard for me to fathom not having this. Like seriously, so hard for me to not fathom not having this. And I think this just ties in with identity because part of the way that I have discovered those deeper desires is through being in my body, being present with my body, with the sensations in my body, with the movement of my body, with my voice, with my ability to take up space on a dance floor. Like all of these things to me are connected. My ability to take up space on a dance floor is like connected to my ability to like take up space in terms of my desire in my life. Like there are people who play really small, want their, keep their desires and the things that they want really, really small, don't want to take up too much space. Baby, like we're here to take up space. And it's a process, and this is one of the reasons I love the dance floor as a dojo because, it's not about being perfect. It's about just showing up for the dance that is there right now, today. If there's worries, if there's fears, whatever it is, awkwardness gets to be there in the dance with you. And just like over time, you get to open more and more and more. You don't have to blast yourself open on the dance floor, but like to open yourself more and more and more and realize, wow, all these fears that I have, like keeping me from just expressing myself. What is that about? I'm just going to express myself. Okay. If people judge me, then they judge me. But also there's plenty of communities out there where people like, they're not really judging you. Maybe some of them are. Most of them aren't. Most people are too focused on themselves to be judging you. So yeah, identity, community, the body, all of these things are connected, are important to look at. Sovereignty around choice, the choices that we make for ourselves. And it's like, it doesn't end, This is the journey. This is the journey. It's like, be real with what is actually alive. And this has been so massively important in this journey for me. It's like being real with like what is actually going on. When I was talking before about the places of entitlement versus the places where I'm in this gracious receivership, being real, for me to be real about what is actually happening. What is my internal posture? What actually are my desires? What am I feeling? What do I need? You know? And in the sifting and sorting and asking and answering, in the bringing intentionality to life, this is how we walk the path of identity transformation, is bringing consciousness to what's actually happening with us, within us, what our desires are, what we're here to create in this world, to be in approval of that. In service to life, in service to creation. So, wild, here we are, coming up on Valentine's Day 2025. Sorry, 2026. Whoops. Almost Valentine's Day 2026. What a time to be alive. What a time. I'm sending you so much love. Be gentle with yourself. You know, baby steps. Baby steps are still huge. When a baby's taking its first steps, that's massive. To go from crawling to walking, that's a huge leap. Baby steps seem small, but they are massive leaps, actually. So, go easy on yourself. And if you got this far, thank you for watching.